Good afternoon, friends. It's Friday afternoon, and we are back with our 42nd episode of Forefront of Future Frontiers, a medical webinar series. This series is being organized by the uh, Scientific Society of Arupade Medical College, Constituent College of Vinayaka Mission Research Foundation. We are now in series 8, where we are looking at emerging and re-emerging infections as the theme. And the talk for today is focused on polio eradication, why the goals of 2000 are still elusive in 2020s. And the speaker is none other than Dr. Jacob John, who is the emeritus professor and former HOD of microbiology and pediatrics from CMC Vellore. So before we proceed further, I would request our Dean, Professor Kotur, to welcome the speaker, and after that, Dr. Vishnu Bhatt to introduce the speaker. Over to you, Dr. Kotur. Dr. Kotur? Sir? Dr. Kotur? He's not muted.
He is not able to hear you.
Hello? Sir? Finish, sir. You want to speak, sir? Dr. Kotur?
Hello, Malakshmi.
Sir, your audio is not connecting. Hello? Hello?
Not audible.
No, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Mahalakshmi,
Yes,
Are you-
sir.
you
I
talk.
can hear you, sir.
Okay.
My
Sound
is
is
not
not
audible.
Not muted, sir. You're on. Mic is on. Mic is on, but sound is not coming. Sir, go to mute button. Next to that, there will be there. Select the speaker and the audio microphone, sir.
Well, his microphone is not connected.
Yes, sir.
Well, it is not connected. My voice is audible, right?
Yes, sir. Do you want to introduce, sir? So that we
I
can come
think
back
there
to
is
sir.
some connection problem in his computer. He is speaking, but we are not hearing.
His mic is also on, sir. But microphone is not connected. Sir, why don't you introduce?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Now is the microphone is speaker is off.
Mic is on.
I think what we can do is we can start. We can talk at the end.
Okay, sir.
Good afternoon to everybody. Dean was but there was some problem with the speaker. So on behalf of the Dean and the ADMC Managing Committee, the Chairman, Vice Chancellor and others, I welcome Professor Jacob John, who is a very senior professor of pediatrics and formerly head of the Department of Nephrology and Microbiology at Christian Medical College, Vellore. I know Professor Jacob John for many years. First time I met him was in 1977 or so, when I visited Vellore. He was heading the virology department then. Dr. Jacob John has got a rare distinguished feature of being a pediatrician and a virologist both together. He has done a DCH from CMC Vellore. Later, he had done MRCP from Edinburgh. Then he moved and did MSc and PhD in virology to get a glimpse of virology. And later, I think he changed his field. But he continued to remain a pediatrician and a virologist. And basically, his interest is infectious disease. He was heading the pediatric infectious disease in the University of Arizona in USA before he moved to India. And he was back in his alma mater in Vellore for a long time, from 1978 onwards till about 1995. And we used to see him in all our IAP meetings and in all the other association meetings every year after year. And he visited in Jipmer Pondicherry also. And his noteworthy work in virology mostly, he was involved in the polio eradication program for a long time. And his brainchild was that pulse polio immunization, where we used to, we are continuing to immunize. That every year we are giving the vaccine to all children at the same time. And I think that did the trick, and it reduced the polio infection to a large extent. Later, he worked and he did the bivalent polio vaccine, because now we don't give oral trivalent, we are giving the divalent. And also the injection polio vaccine, he was the first one to say that if you want to really prevent, you have to give injectable polio vaccine, because oral polio maintenance of the cold chain and giving becomes a problem sometime. Unless properly stored, it is an issue. And the first case of HIV infection in India was reported by Dr. John from CMC Vellore. And of course, we initially believed in India we will not get HIV. But later we realized we are no better than other countries. We have a lot of infection. He did a lot of work on pediatric infectious disease, especially viral encephalitis. And the one you are here in the north, the viral infectious disease, which was suspected and later turned out to be due to some poisoning with the food. So all this work is done, and he has published several papers. And it is our fortune that we are having such a great person in the field. And he is a very senior person, and immediately agreed to give us talk on the topic So that shows the enthusiasm. And thank you, Professor Dr. Jacob John, so for your kindness and also agreeing to deliver the talk. And thank you very much, sir.
Now you able to hear, Mahalakshmi?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now
Thank
we
you,
can
Dr.
hear.
Bhatt, for introducing. And over to our Dean, Dr. Kotur.
Now you
Sir,
are
we
able
can
to
hear
hear
you
me?
now, sir. Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah, very good afternoon to all the participants and our esteemed resource person. All I want to say in this occasion is our Triple F webinar has got an additional flag now. You know, we have earned credibility in the past 8-9 months, wherein all eminent international luminaries have shared the platform, and we have one more person who has done a pioneering work in the very important global problem of polio, and he is over here. That will add grace, sir. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences on this Triple F platform on behalf of our management and our university at large. I am very, very happy to welcome you over here. This polio eradication program, even though nearing 4 decades or more than 4 decades, even so involvement of so many 2 crores of volunteers, then 250 crores of children have been vaccinated, but still it is the problem is still elusive, and certainly it is to be thought. Though it's no doubt that it has been better in some parts, but it is still in some pockets it is still a problem, the global problem. And I think it is the biggest public-private partnership venture which has been made in the globe, and with so many organizations joining, private, global, international, the WHO, UNO, UNICEF, all joined. But still we are not able to circumvent that. So we hear our speaker, first-hand experience certainly will be helpful to all of the participants, all of us. Thank you very much once again, and welcome, sir. Yeah, Mahalakshmi.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kotur, for those words. We'll now move over to the topic. And before we start, there are certain few housekeeping announcements. One is this session is being transmitted live in YouTube. You can see it on the right upper quadrant of your screen, live. You can see a red color rectangle. And also this is being recorded for posterior use, right? Over to you, Dr. Jacob John. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kotur, Dr. Bhatt, Dr. Mahalakshmi, and my dear colleagues. It's a pleasure and privilege for me to participate in this one of the series of webinars that you are conducting. My congratulations to you. Can I have the first slide, please? The topic that we agree between Dr. Bhatt and me is polio eradication. Why is the goal still elusive? Next slide. What was the goal? That no child should develop polio in the 21st century. From January 1, 2001, no child should have developed polio. For that, poliovirus infection should have been stopped. Why? Because if there is infection somewhere, it can result in some polio. So technically, the definition of eradication is zero incidence of infection by poliovirus. Then WHO and I had strong disagreement in classifying 7 strains as polioviruses. Polioviruses in the basket for eradication. I insisted, the WHO took the position, no, we have not still reconciled, we do not have a common ground. Next slide. The consequences of this disagreement is that while poliovirus continued into 21st century, as you all know, type 3 was eradicated only in 2012. Type 1 is still not eradicated. Afghanistan and Pakistan have them. Now, you will be wondering, how are these issues related to the definition of poliovirus? Is it wild poliovirus alone, as WHO says, or is WPV and Sabin viruses under eradication? It cannot be explained away in one seminar. To explain that question, a whole book was necessary. Next slide. Polio, the eradication in polio, the malady and its remedy, by myself and Dr. Tanya Tharmabalan, a pediatrician from Mumbai. Dr. Vishnu Bhatt has a copy of this book. I would like you to share this with your postgraduate students and conduct a postgraduate journal club or seminar on the ideas in the book, and then let me know what you come to, what conclusion you will come to. Next slide. Now, there are two cartoons, one on the top and on the bottom. The top cartoon is what WHO wanted to achieve when in 1988, the polio eradication resolution was passed by the World Health Assembly. They wanted polio eradicated only by OPV. You can see above the line, it's OPV, until the point where there is a world without wild poliovirus. After that, countries are given freedom either to stop OPV or to continue OPV. That was the design of the World Health Organization, against which I argued vehemently, continuously, and I still argue. In March 2016, embarrassed by type 2 vaccine-derived poliovirus spreading in Africa, that Sabin type 2 had to be stopped, and for safety of stopping type 2, 1 dose of IPV was recommended. So all countries had to now license IPV. So that is what is happening since March 2016. OPV is the mainstay, and 1 dose of IPV is recommended. Many countries are using it. All countries have licensed it. Now the bottom cartoon is my own design of polio eradication. Starting point, 1988. Ending point I call C, ABC, C. World without polio, wild or vaccine. That's where WHO and I had to disagree. We have never compromised. They stick to their guns and I stick to my point of view. There is a checkpoint, B, which tells you are on the right track towards C. And at the checkpoint B, since then, my argument is that no more OPV should have been in use. Before that, between A and B, IPV had to be introduced, OPV ramped down, IPV ramped up, and at point B, no more OPV allowed, and B to C should have been exclusively using IPV. In that case, we could have reached C, world without polio, wild or vaccine. That was my definition of a polio eradicated world. WHO eradication was a world without wild polio virus, no matter what the vaccine virus will do. Next slide. Now, what is the situation in 2020? On 25 August 2020, WHO declared Africa as polio eradicated. 47 nations in the continent. But by definition, only wild virus polio is polio. And according to WHO, only 2 nations have polio. Afghanistan 2020 had 56 cases, Pakistan 84 cases, total of 140 cases, all due to wild polio type 1. But in 2020, there is a veritable pandemic of iatrogenic polio due to circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus. 26 countries in Africa and Asia are affected with that pandemic. Next slide. This is 2020 map of the world. As you can see, Afghanistan, Pakistan have lots of red dots, wild poliovirus 1, and lots of green dots also. In Africa, there are 20 odd countries showing a lot of green dots. That, according to WHO, is not polio, but they are children paralyzed with vaccine-derived poliovirus type 2. That is the problem. That is in pandemic proportions in 2020. It affects not only African countries, but also Afghanistan and Pakistan also. You can see on the Arabian Peninsula, in the bottom, there are some orange spots, 27 cases of circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus type 1. So CVDPV type 1, one outbreak, CVDPV type 2, pandemic across African nations, and in Asia, 2 continents are affected by this man-made polio. Next slide. The size of the pandemic is not what you see because, as you know, one wild virus type 2 case represents 1,000 silent infections. One CVDPV2 case, we do not know how many, but it is not as virulent as wild virus. It is not as attenuated as vaccine virus, which would be about 1 in 150,000. So I attribute a number 5,000. Okay, it may be more. Very conservatively, I'm saying one CVDPV2 may represent 5,000 infections. There were 1,000 cases, exactly 1,000 cases in 2020. That means 5 million children were infected. That is the size of the pandemic, 5 million across 26 countries. Now, wild poliovirus type 1, one case represents 200 infections, the most neurovirulent. So CVDPV1, one case represents 5 times 200, 1,000 infections. So 30 cases, that is what happened in 2020, 30,000 infections. It's not pandemic, it's just one country, maybe one country per year. Now this is a very crowded slide, don't worry about anything. I will guide you to see what you have to see. This slide contains only data on circulating vaccine-derived polioviruses, and the left extreme column lists countries. The top 5 countries are CVDP type 1, ignore it. The middle long list is CVDPV type 2 countries. Now move to the right, that column with, yeah, exactly that. Come down, yeah. You see how many countries have CVDPV type 2 in 2020, 1 year earlier in 2019. Now you see the pandemic began in 2019 and is continuing in 2020. This is man-made polio. On the right-hand side, there are a lot of numbers. They are isolations from either healthy children or from sewage. So there are a lot of isolations. Just ignore that. We are only focusing on children with polio that we looked at. Next slide, please. Now, public health also has ethics. It is a paradox that medical experimentation on individuals, whether patients or healthy volunteers in a vaccine trial, is controlled by strict ethical guidelines, while no such protection exists for whole populations which are subjected to medical intervention in the name of preventive medicine or health promotion. Polio eradication is an example, and the way vaccines against COVID-19 is being distributed is another live example that we are all watching. So public health also has ethics, and the program that we are seeing against polio eradication program with impunity have broken all Lakshman Rekhas of public health ethics in creating iatrogenic polio in such huge numbers. No public health agency has any business to introduce a virus that will cause such big problems. Okay, next slide, please. Now, this is a cartoon from, this is a graph from the book. In 2008, there were approximately little more than 1,600 wild virus polio, type 1, 2, and 3. I'm sorry, type 1 and 3. But the number of cases of CVDPV polio was just about 800, about half the number. And you can see the broken line is the graph of wild poliovirus. It came down to low numbers in 2012, very low numbers in 2016, 17, and 18, and it has improved a little bit in 2019 and 2020. Look at the vaccine-induced or iatrogenic polio. It has remained static at 2015, dropped a little bit in 2016 because we stopped type 2 polio virus vaccine in 2016, and then 2019 it took off into a pandemic. The iatrogenic polio is vaccine-associated paralytic polio, both in the vaccinated and in contact. CVDPV, immunodeficiency-associated VDPV, ambiguous VDPV that causes paralysis. They are not counted by WHO. They're all swept under the carpet. In fact, VAPP is not even defined as polio by WHO. It is not monitored or put in the numbers put in the public domain. Next slide. So as a result, 2019 to 20, while poliovirus, the broken line is remaining more or less static, whereas the CVD-PV polio has taken off into a pandemic level. Next slide. 2019 and 2020, two countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, continue with wild virus polio type 1, whereas 2019 there are 19 countries and 2020, 25 countries with outbreaks of CVD-PV polio. Truly pandemic. Next slide. There are two vaccines against polio, as you all know, IPV, Salk vaccine, totally safe and exquisitely efficacious, cost more dose by dose. 3 doses are sufficient. No child has ever, anywhere in the world, developed polio after taking 3 doses. Can be presented as pentavalent or hexavalent vaccines. Very EPI friendly. OPV, saving vaccine, unsafe everywhere. Efficacy high in poor countries. The efficacy is inversely proportional to the level of sanitation and hygiene. That is described in the book. Minimum 10 doses necessary, still not fully protective. Campaigns, pulse polio campaigns are essential. Next slide. Let me explain this slide. This is a comparison by attributing quantitative marks for safety and efficacy. OPV, safety and efficacy. Multiply the marks, you get the product A into B. IPV, safety and efficacy. Marks C into D. Now, the first series of rows are 1974 and in 88 and 2001 in developed countries. The bottom one, 1974, 1988, 2001, developing countries. Let me concentrate only on the developing countries. In 1974, when EPI stipulated only OPV in EPI, we already knew that there was a safety problem. So you couldn't give 4 marks. Safety problem was WAP in vaccinated children and WAP in contact. Low incidence, high impact. Not 4 marks, but 2.5 marks. Efficacy, we all know, was suboptimal in developing countries, so 3 marks. 7.5 marks for OPV when EPI is established. On the other hand, look at IPV, 16 marks, 4 marks at that time, and yet IPV was not allowed in EPI. 1988, when polio eradication resolution was passed, we knew that there are more safety problems because immunodeficiency associated VDPV and polio had appeared, so it had to be reduced to 2, and the marks were 6 marks versus 16. 2001, when polio was supposed to be eradicated, by then the safety marks had come down to 1.5. Why? Because we knew about CVD-PV. So a vaccine that causes CVD-PV, causes immunodeficiency associated VDPV, causes WAP in vaccinated and in contact. It is very low safety marks, 1.5. And efficacy marks remains 3. 4.5 versus 16. There is absolutely no justification in insisting on polio by WHO or the eradication program. Next slide, please. 2007, in IAP conference, I was invited to give the Shantilal Seth oration. This is the opening slide of my presentation. Next slide. I will present 2 slides from that presentation. Immunogenicity or vaccine efficacy of OPV and IPV. Look at 3 doses. In Vellore, 78% efficacy. Also in Gambia, 78% efficacy for 3 doses of OPV. 99% efficacy for IPV. 99 means virtually 100%. OPV takes 10 doses and more for 99%. They're very well known at that time. Next slide. Another slide I presented in 2007. Next slide. Okay. Look at only the left pie diagram. OPV status of polio. Uttar Pradesh, 2006. 0-dose recipients with polio, 2%. 1 to 3 dose recipients polio, 13%. So 15% were in children who had received 3 or less number of doses. 31% polio had received 4 to 6 doses. 18% had received 7 to 9 doses. 36% had received 10 or more doses. Still, nobody would listen. OPV is touted to be the only vaccine to be used against polio. Next slide. Next, please. Back to the old diagram. You just imagine, what is a polio eradicated world? Is it a world without wild polio virus, but any number of vaccine polio can occur, even pandemic proportion, or it should be a world without polio, wild or vaccine? This is where WHO and I cannot agree, and I do not understand WHO's ethical stand on vaccine polio. Next slide, please. This is Finland. Finland, Iceland, and Sweden were the model for polio eradication that showed us that polio could be eradicated. The pilot projects. The incidence per population of polio in Finland in the 1940s and 50s were the same as in Vellore. Finland is one of the cleanest countries in the world. They had eliminated hepatitis A at that time. And look at the polio. They could not eliminate polio with hygiene and sanitation alone. They used IPV in mass vaccination. And in 1960-61, they reached polio elimination. That was the model that we were supposed to use by WHO. That is how everybody supported polio eradication, because we knew it could be done. Next slide, please. In the United States, when IPV was introduced in 1955, look at the bar graph of 51 to 54, 58, 59, 60, and 61. The tall graphs represent a number of polio in the country if there is no vaccination. as the population increases, the number of cases would increase. The yellow bars are if when IPV was introduced, IPV had no herd effect. In other words, it did not affect the poliovirus circulation, and the effect was only in the vaccinated children. The yellow bars would have been the expected number of cases. What happened was the observed number of cases were the red bars, much less than the yellow bars, confirming that IPV had significant effect on poliovirus circulation, what I call herd effect. Next slide, please. The fecal oral theory of poliovirus circulation is only to fit with OPV inoculation. Let me be blunt. It is untrue. While the virus is amplified in both nasopharynx and intestines, infection is predominantly via the respiratory route. Infectiousness only during the pharyngeal shedding of poliovirus. Fecal shedding is mostly dead end. Fecal oral route has never been demonstrated. No country reduced polio incidence with sanitation alone. Fecal oral route is postulated only in developing countries. In developed countries, it is respiratory route. In developing countries, it is fecal oral route. And people believe it. That dogma is only to OPV is the only vaccine fit for developing countries. Next slide, please. We did a field study of IPV in 1980-83, long before eradication resolution. When 6,600 to 6,900 child years were observed, child years are number of children multiplied by the years of observation, all below 5 children, against 17 cases of polio in the DPT group, 0 case of polio in the DPT plus IPV group. Vaccine efficacy, or actually this is vaccine effectiveness, 100%. The rate of polio in the DPT group, 2.6 per 1,000 children per year. Explicitly efficacious. Next slide, please. The study continued, and 83 to 88, 1 dose IPV in 7,167 child years, 2 cases of polio, vaccine effectiveness 89%, 1 dose. 2 doses IPV, 30,000 child years, 2 cases of polio, 98% vaccine efficacy, vaccine effectiveness. We were only giving 2 doses at that time, not a 3rd dose. That is the efficacy of that vaccine, which I am promoting. I have been promoting for a number of years. Next slide, please. Now, does effect in India? This is a very complicated study, but I will give you a very clear explanation. The height of the bar is weekly number of stools collected and tested for poliovirus. In children who are 3 years of age, starting on one particular day, you can see the solid line represents the total number of stools collected per week until the 3rd birthday of the child. No more stool collected. I think it was 3. I will come to that. It could be 5. The broken line, starting at a particular time, is children born and brought up in their community and who received IPV at 6, 10, 14 weeks of age. And their stools also collected. And you can see when they reach the age 3 or 5, I will explain later, their stool collection is over. So a comparison of the stool prevalence of poliovirus will tell you whether IPV had a significant effect on poliovirus circulation. Not on polio disease, poliovirus circulation. Next slide, please. Yes, it is 3 years. Come to the last column. Control children, 4,527 stools with 1.52% virus positive. Study children, 8,159 stools, 49 cases, prevalence 0.52. Statistically highly significant drop only due to IPV. IPV has strong herd effect, which OPV does not have. Next slide, please. This is the entire North Arcot district. 1988 to 1995, there was a North Arcot district polio control program, and you can see what happened to the polio. Virtually disappeared. Next slide, please. The district had 2 parts, OPV area, IPV area. Look at the second survey only, the bottom line. 22,844 under 5 children surveyed in the OPV area, coverage 95%, third dose OPV, 3 cases, vaccine effectiveness 87%. IPV area, 24,483 children surveyed, 3 cases polio, drop from rate 1 per thousand to 0.13 per thousand in the OPV area, to 0.1 rate to 0.12, 95% reduction at 85% coverage. IPV did not reach the same coverage as OPV. Lower coverage, higher efficacy, higher effectiveness because of herd effect. Next slide, please. By the way, I was asked not to publish this data by the Government of India. The North Arcot district study results were disallowed from publication by the Government of India. It's a very strange phenomenon. Okay. Bombay experience of Professor Renu Patel. She was in charge of immunization of 5 slum blocks in the Dharavi area. Frustrated with persisting polio in spite of 90% OPV coverage, she introduced DPT polio in 1 block in 1988. There was 0 polio in that block from 1989 and 1990 and 1991. In the next year, she added a 2nd block for DPT polio. No case occurred in 1990 and 1991. 3rd block in 1990, no case in 1991. In 1992, Renu Patel was transferred to a rural medical college from Mumbai. Soon after, she spoke publicly on her experience by the Government of India. Next slide, please. The argument. WHO argues that IPV protects only individual children but does not help in polio eradication. So IPV has no role in eradication. I argue that IPV does protect individual children, so IPV has a role in preventing all polio, wild and CVDPV. So give IPV to prevent CVDPV, while WHO can do whatever it wants to for eradication. That's my argument. WHO argues that IPV is incompatible with eradication. I argue that OPV is incompatible with eradication. We have no meeting point between WHO and me. Next slide. The consequences are 1992, while poliovirus 2 had been eradicated. I strongly advise to stop type 2 vaccine after 4 years. 3 years are required to confirm eradication, 1 more year for safety margin. Why? It is unethical to give an unsafe vaccine beyond the time it was necessary. For 12 years, 2004 to 2016, vaccine virus type 2 was continued by WHO because WHO maintained that OPV is one of the safest vaccines. Back to this. And that gave type 2 vaccine virus a chance to evolve as CVDPV, resulting in the pandemic starting in 2018. What a blunder. It should never have happened. Had vaccine virus type 2 been removed in 2004, there would have been no pandemic that we are worried about today. Next slide, please. In 1999, if WPV2 disappeared, we knew that TOPV coverage was maximum, optimum, sufficient, because type 2 disappeared on TOPV. Since WPV 1 and 3 did not stop, we knew TOPV will never eradicate them. But WHO insisted that we will only use TOPV. Research on monovalent type 1 and 3 were done in Vellore and published in 1976. WPV1 was stopped in 2011 using only MOPV1. Can you imagine if MOPV1 was used before 2000, we could have eradicated type 1 also. If science was taken seriously, it could have been eradicated even in Afghanistan and Pakistan also. Next slide. Consequences of stubbornness 3. I covered it in the previous slide. WPV 1 and 3 could have been eradicated, but as it happened, WPV 3 could be eradicated only in 2012. WPV 1 has not yet been eradicated. Eradication program does not believe in ethics, as it comes in the way of eradication using OPV. So it is an OPV-centric program, not a wild poliovirus or polio disease-centric program. Next slide, please. Vaccine polio, VAP, and CVDP polio has been defined as non-polio AFP. The program promises only wild poliovirus eradication. The program wants countries to face vaccine polio and take measures to counter it. The program naively thought that OPV could be discontinued and VAP and CVDPV will disappear. Today we have pandemic of CVDPV2. Program accepts no responsibility and no compensation is offered to paralyzed children. Next slide. So I request you to get full details from this book. The two of us have written to the Ministry of Health, Government of India, saying, please introduce a full immunizing schedule of IPV in India. That means we already have 1 dose or 2 intradermal fractional doses. Add 1 dose of dose, and we can stop OPV. Why should we stop OPV? Because we have at least 100 cases of VAP every year, which is counted as non-polio AFP. That, to my mind, is unethical. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think it'll take some time to get around these facts, wrap our minds around such mind-boggling statistics. And it actually challenges a lot of basic concepts or tenets we have developed over the period of time. Because polio has been always touted as the poster child for herd immunity. The oral polio vaccine is what we traditionally associate with herd immunity and how things can spread, and the vaccine virus can actually cause betterment of the people who have not been involved also. So listening to your statistics, we really have to rework or rewire our brain into thinking what it is. Actually, when we saw your book, sir, Dr. Bhatt actually shared this thing also with us. So imbroglio, is that how you pronounce it, sir? What do you call that word?
Imbroglio.
Okay, I was actually very, yeah, I looked up at Merriam-Webster's dictionary because I wanted to see what exactly that word means. It means
what did you find?
extremely confused, complicated, embarrassing. And actually, they have given one colloquial expression also, confused heap of facts. But I think that is what this one was all about. Basically, like you're trying to say, we are producing a pandemic proportion of iatrogenic polio, acute flaccid paralysis in the country because of our efforts in vaccination. Before I ask, maybe I will ask Dr. Bhatt to initiate the discussions because I'm yet to wrap my mind around the facts. Dr. Bhatt, can you start the discussions, please?
Yeah, I think it is very interesting, and of course, as usual, Professor Jacob John has put his points across very strongly. One doubt I have in my mind is it why these people are not listening to continue IPV, not or continue OPV and not changing over to IPV? Is it because the cost is too much, or we do not have manpower to give, or what is the actual reason? I don't know. Because
I will
IPV is
I will not tell you the truth because I could be nailed for defamation. But I will tell you, cost is not the consideration. IPV eradication have been cheaper than OPV eradication.
second question is it OPV is less effective because we do not store properly and transport properly, or is it because the vaccine related to the body biology or something like immune system?
Okay, there are the absurd facts are, as I showed you, OPV is not very efficacious in many developing countries, particularly in the tropical belt. And it seems to be inversely proportional to the degree of hygiene and sanitation. Now, no one has been able to explain the pathophysiology. However, it looks like the innate immune system in the GI tract are kept on alert because of repeated infections. And the innate immune system has the job of distinguishing between pathogens and non-pathogens. So it is my hypothesis that when OPV virus comes along, innate immune system destroys it, doesn't allow it to get infected. Now, we know so much about innate immune system now with the COVID. Everybody knows that. Innate immune system is far more important than we always thought. Anyway, the absurd facts are that right throughout the developing countries, particularly around the tropical belt, children get polio in spite of 3 doses, 7 doses, 10 doses, 15 doses, 20 doses. The world record is 53 doses still type 1 polio in UP. Type 1 and type 3, I forget, type 1 I think. 53 doses, still that child did not get infected. Now, that is the end of the spectrum. But as I showed you, 36% of children in 2006 had received more than 10 doses of OPV. That's the absurd fact. No child anywhere in the world has ever developed polio, wild or vaccine-like, after taking 3 routine doses of IPV or 2 well-timed doses of IPV. When I say well-timed, first dose at 14 weeks or later, second dose after an interval of 4 months or more. 2 doses are enough. Cost is not the issue, I told you. I cannot tell you the truth because that is undiplomatic on my part. But I know the truth. This is nothing to do with science.
Now we are giving bivalent vaccine orally to 3 doses and 1 IPV. You think that is sufficient, or we have to give 1 more IPV?
Why are we doing OPV now? We don't have any polio. And type 3 is causing WAP all the time, every year. Why are we giving OPV anymore? If we give a second dose of IPV, you can stop all OPV. Do you know why we are giving IPV? I'll tell you why. If you don't give OPV by campaign, only routine OPV, you will have a proportion of children who are under vaccinated. The vaccine virus from the vial is far safer than the vaccine virus in circulation. The herd immunity idea is dangerous because the moment it transfers from child to child to child, it begins to revert back to virulence. So what they said was your advantage is actually to our disadvantage. So to prevent circulation of vaccine viruses, we have to give campaigns of OPV. That's why we are giving campaigns. Not because Pakistan has a type 1. Because we want to prevent vaccine-derived poliovirus. Therefore, we are giving type 1 and 3. Okay.
Sir, I have one very basic question. You said that 34% of the children who have been vaccinated multiple times still develop vaccine-associated poliomyelitis.
No, that is wild polio.
Wild polio, whatever.
Yeah, that's
What
the pie
I'm
diagram.
saying is, even if the pie diagram, even if many doses are given, that children do not develop immunity because the system is on high alert and it is just preventing the immunization infection.
Yeah, don't keep saying the system on high alert. That is only a theoretical explanation.
Okay.
Absurd fact is that children with 10, 15, 20 doses were still getting polio. The mean number of doses per child at the time of full eradication was 21 doses. Now, each campaign, if you cost it, equal to 1 dose of IPV. So, when you say 3 doses of IPV, 3 campaigns, but we have been giving how many campaigns?
Okay.
So, the poor efficacy of OPV and the poor safety margin of OPV are both problems, and both we gullible people accept as inevitable. And that is only to block IPV being used in countries like India. There is a reason why they want to block IPV being used. I cannot tell you the reason. You can guess by now. Okay, so it is to block IPV that they want to eradicate polio only by using OPV. Stubborn, that's why I'm using the word stubbornness. It's unethical, unscientific, it's purely due to stubbornness.
Okay.
It's all in the book, if you have to explain in the book.
Okay.
Okay,
Sir,
any other question?
yeah, one more question, which is again when you are listening to all this, no, see this polio eradication program, no, so it's the poster child of all eradication campaigns. If you want to see children are getting affected, so you can emotionally target the people, so you can tell them the relevance of this thing. People have actually seen how polio is affecting children, so they kind of buy in, parents buy in that we need to vaccinate. And there is no dearth of funds. If you see this Melinda Gates, Bill Gates Foundation onwards, everybody is contributing. The world's #1 millionaire is giving money for all these things. So technically it should be working now. So that is what it is. So what prevents them from moving over, or despite data being shown that this is not working, what actually prevents them from moving over? Sir, is this the project management which is a problem, or it is some other thing which is a problem?
You know that Western countries, particularly European countries, colonized a lot of developing countries. Okay, a highly ethical country, with high morality, human rights, everything, but they have no problem colonizing people, colonizing countries. Why? You must realize that there is a lot of difference between the cultural ideology thinking of Indian versus Western. So, have you ever heard anybody ever saying, we made a mistake? We went to Iraq, we made a mistake. We went to Vietnam, we made a mistake. Have you ever heard it? No. They never will make a mistake.
Sure, Barack Obama apologized.
Ama, that is the problem. That is a mindset. They said OPV will eradicate polio, and they put all their money in it. They will have to prove to the world that OPV alone will eradicate polio. They are now developing a new OPV. You know what? It's called a novel OPV to eradicate the pandemic of type 2 polio. So another 10 years, the pandemic will grow and they will hit it. They will stick to OPV, OPV, OPV. They will never accept IPV as an adjunct to OPV. If you give just 2 doses of IPV, just relax on the rule of 1 dose, they wanted to prevent CVD-PV becoming epidemic, so they tried 1 dose, it failed. If you add a second dose, they will succeed. Everybody knows that. But they're stubborn to use only OPV and eradicate wild polio virus, and then tell the countries, hey, yeah, we have eradicated polio. The rest is for you to do what you like. This is vaccine polio. That's your problem. That is where we are. That is where I'm morally extremely angry to see this scene evolving, that 1,000 children paralyzed and nobody is worried. No donor agency is worried. They're not, enough is enough. So this is the reality. This is why I had to write a book to put this whole idea so that all arguments are in the book. The myth of fecal-oral transmission is the mother of all myths in polio eradication.
Sir, then the person to be blamed is Park and Park, sir. they have put that concept of herd immunity and fecal-oral transmission and benefiting the people who have not been exposed into all our minds. So that is where it is difficult for us to wrap that thing around.
Exactly. The African children are getting benefit of the transmission of poliovirus. The only thing is they're getting polio, but you don't call it polio. You call it ASPD2 and poliovirus. While poliovirus is the only polio. So we have been misinformed. We were gullible enough to accept them. So the oral polio vaccine comes with certain dogmas, one of which is what you said. When it spreads, be thankful. That is what you people want. Even without giving vaccine to a child, the child will get vaccine from its neighbor. Then PV. That they didn't tell us. Okay.
Sir, there is one question in the chat box. I don't understand it. It is from Dr. Nalini. Is FIPV better than IMIPV? I don't understand the question. This is what it is written.
Fractional dose IPV intradermal is equal to, almost equal to full dose intramuscular. So one intramuscular dose can be divided into 5 fractional doses and to inoculate 5. In other words, how cheap IPV could be. Now, if you give a second intradermal dose at 9 months of age, you have done your job. But why bother? IPV can be given as pentavalent or hexavalent vaccine. Be done with it. No need to worry about intradermal. And if intradermal goes a little deeper, it will not be sufficiently immunogenic. So fractional at beyond 14 days of age is equal to 1 dose of intramuscular IPV.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Kottu, do you have any questions to the speaker?
Let me tell you,
Yes, sir.
there is a phenomenon called dissonance. Let me just explain that to everybody. Mahalakshmi has explained that you have certain ideas put in your brain, you learned it, you taught it, we thought it was true, it has become our belief system, we have accepted it, and when somebody comes and says, no, sun is not going around the earth is going around the sun, you say, no, what nonsense, I can see the sun going around the earth every morning, rises and sets, it goes, so sun is going around the earth, whatever you say. But if school teachers put the idea in the children's brains first that earth is going around the sun, then the parents says the sun going around the earth, teacher told us. So Mahalakshmi can be, that is called cognitive dissonance. Somebody is talking. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have some layman's question. Number one is I remember even my student day at that time, so many wrong notions used to be there about these vaccines. Wrong notions amongst the minds of the people, which was preventing them to take. Now, even after 4 decades, is it that one which is also still contributing for this eradication program to be elusive, or people not still accepting in any corner of the world? Like, I remember in the Middle East, that time it was used to, it contains a haram worm or something like that, they used to say. And if you take this vaccine, it used to cause infertility, sterilization, those kind of things were also circulating. Now, I don't think that is the cause of this non-acceptance.
Okay. The whole story started in Nigeria in 2002. That is described in the book.
Hmm.
Some pharmacologists took, there's an echo coming back, Maharashmi.
Dean
Okay.
sir, can you mute yourself, please?
Okay, thank you. Now it's okay. What the pharmacologist in Nigeria did was to take OPV and put through his machine mass spectroscopy. Your pharmacologist, that's a tool he knows, and he found one blip, a blip that should have been, at the place where female sex hormone should be, estrogen or something like that. So he said to WHO colleagues, there seems to be some estrogen or some one of those hormones in OPV. Can you check it out? They ridiculed him. So he thought they were trying to hide something. He went to the Muslim mullahs, leaders, theologians, and complained to them, saying that they are trying to hide something. Who are they? WHO. So there's a compromise. So they then flatly refused OPV. The entire Muslim population, Nigeria said, we will not take this vaccine. This is contaminated. This is to sterilize our children. Why female sex hormone? Something, okay. It should have been nipped in the bud. It was. So finally they agreed. We will send this vaccine to a neutral laboratory. They sent it to an Indian laboratory. The laboratory confirmed there is something in this vaccine that doesn't fit in. Can you imagine? Now the story broke out from Nigerian Muslims to Indian and Pakistani Muslims. So Indian Muslims began, discarding OPV or fighting against OPV, not accepting OPV. So Indian leaders had to convince the mullahs, the leaders, saying that this is absolutely safe vaccine. There is something wrong somewhere. Will you accept OPV if we purchase it from Indonesia, not Europe, a Muslim country? They said yes. So we began importing Indonesian vaccine. Nigeria also began importing Indonesian vaccine. The original issue was never resolved. Pakistani Muslims, no one were bold enough to tell them the truth. And they, even if you tell them the truth, they will not believe it. Because when Osama bin Laden was caught, they used vaccination as a method of catching him. You know the story. So the Islamic, what do you call, the fundamentalist or that extreme conservative group they believed that this vaccination is a program to sterilize women, girl children. So they believed it. Fact. Even today, they believe it. They have killed off 100 health workers giving OPV in Pakistan. They have burned down a hospital giving OPV in Pakistan. So when you give OPV to children, the health workers have to be accompanied by 2 bodyguards on either side. Who created it? Okay, so problem should be nipped in the bud. people should be respected, dissenting opinion should be respected. That's my plea. If you sweep dissenting opinion under the carpet, problem will never go away. So the anti-OPV backlash has never died out in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So I'm warning everybody, the novel oral polio vaccine is still an OPV. And it's an American product. It is red rag in front of the bull. IPV can be smuggled in. Nobody objects to IPV. Give it as pentavalent, give it as hexavalent, give it as intradermal, intramuscular, do what you like. There is no objection against IPV anywhere in the world. All sentiments against vaccination is against OPV. Still, they want to prove that OPV alone can eradicate wild polioviruses. Why this stubbornness is my question. Thank you, Dr. Kote, for that question.
Sir, if you don't mind, one more question. In this COVID pandemic era, everything and anything is being compared, attributed, or outcome of. Is there any some cross reactivity between coronavirus and polio virus or something of that? Do you have any information on that?
Both are single-stranded RNA viruses. Can you mute your...
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both are single-stranded RNA viruses. Both are positive strands. In other words, both will act as the messenger RNA. Positive sense, single-stranded RNA. And both are respiratory transmitted. And there the similarities end. The poliovirus has very limited cells with receptors. CD154. Very few cells have it. Central nervous system cells have it. And if the virus reaches there, you will get polio. The coronavirus that we are worried about has ACE2 as a receptor, widely distributed in all the organs, heart, liver, kidneys, blood vessels, brain. It's all over it's a very, very widely distributed receptor. So therefore, the pathogenicity of coronavirus is much more severe. It affects more systems, whereas poliovirus only affects, if it affects, only central nervous system. So there is no cause activity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
taking
sir.
the-
Thank you for your.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jacob, for taking that question. Actually, very rarely we come across or we hear such talks, no, which basically challenges the myths we have and makes us think in new lines. And in that way, you have actually opened our eyes and minds to so many, the new way of thinking or trying to ask. And what is the lesson to learn from your talk today is more than what we learned about polio is that you need to believe in what you find actually, right? You believe in your science and you should be strong enough to communicate to that. And sometimes the effects it also tells us that you may not always succeed, but it doesn't make you wrong, right? Even if you if the WHO doesn't accept it, it still doesn't make you wrong. So I think that is the lesson I'll take from today's talk. Yes, sir.
Mahatma Gandhi said, truth is truth, even if believed by a minority of one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And maybe one more thing is always when we look through retrospectoscope, you'll find that all things were correct in the beginning itself. No, we had the wisdom enough to pick it up at that point of time. But retrospectoscope always shows us that this is where we stand and this is what happened at that time. Thank you very much for a very interesting lecture. And I thank you on behalf of the Scientific Society of AVMC and also Vinayaka Missions Research Foundation University for a wonderful talk, sir. Thank you. And also, I would like to ask Dr. Jacob if he is okay with this. I would like to share the slides of this presentation with the participants, if you permit us, sir.
You think of Galileo when he said, Earth goes around the sun. The more people who understand this issue, the better for the cause. So please do share.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll
Okay.
share the YouTube link of this session as well as Dr. Jacob's set of slides with all the participants. You can download it along with your YouTube, with your e-certificates as usual. So that is the message for the participants. And I would like to tell you that we would continue our journey next week also. Next Friday, we have a very interesting talk. Maybe we can actually take from what we have left today. And we will be talking about professionalism, how to put it into practice. And we have Dr. Balchandra Adkoli. He is the Center of Health Professions Education at Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth University, Pondicherry. He will be exploring what does professionalism mean? How do we practice it? How do we teach it? How do we assess our students on professionalism? Which is, I think, the most important challenge which is before us in view of increasingly complex practice of healthcare currently. So with that, I will close today's session. And please keep thinking about all these things. Maybe it's time to think about what is going on in the name of corona vaccination also at this point of time. So I'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.